all this adds up to time that you guys are billed for. When we're calculating up, what those liquidated damages should be, going past the completion date, generally most of that time that we estimate is based on our inspector being on site there. So if the contractor is able to finish early, like say up to a week early, there's good reason to believe that you guys wouldn't be billed for time that we would have been spending out there on site anyway. So just because this total maximum amount could be up to $15,400, that doesn't necessarily mean that you'd be paying $15,400 extra. That may be savings that you wouldn't get billed from me or Joe or anyone else that's out on site there. And any number of other damages that could come about if the project were to go over the completion date.
And besides just the monetary component, I mean, you get the benefit to your residents of the job gets done earlier, so that the disruption to them is over quicker. So you get that goodwill with the public that they get the sense the project went well and finished early, but then like Derek was mentioning, that the dollars essentially balance out because if our inspector spends, one less day out there at 10 hours a day, that's 10 less hours you get billed for inspection. That basically offsets the amount that you would pay to the contractor in his bonus. So the money just shifts from us to the contractor basically, but your job gets done a little quicker, you get more goodwill with the residents. So, and it gives the contractor incentive to focus more attention on our project rather than go to somebody else. A lot of times we'll have a contractor say, well, we got to leave your project because we got another project. And we'll say, yeah, but you're going to run over here. And they say, well, yeah, but their liquidated damages are higher than yours. So we'll flip that around and say, we'll put a bonus. So, give them the incentive to stay on our project and finish early because they get a bonus here, rather, not just avoiding damages, but they're getting actually extra pay if they focus here and get done ahead of schedule.
Any issue with them trying to cut corners to get done earlier?
I was just going to ask that.
No, they still have all the proper, steps they have to go through.
You don't let them get away with it?
No, the intent is to have a full-time inspector on site, and that when they cut the road subgrade, he'll have to check the subgrade, make sure it's the right elevation before they put the sand down and before they put the gravel down. So.
It's just my school teacher mentality coming through.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes when you ask for things to get done fast, they do get done fast, but not all.
Right.
Like coat of paint instead of two.
Exactly. So
Or what this might provide opportunity for is if they can get an extra crew on site rather than the people themselves working faster. This is just going to get more people, more attention to it.
You've got resources to allocate, where are they going to send it?
Yeah.
I'm for it, especially for this project. I mean, it's a major artery through the community, and Rose Fest is a huge event, and we're going right up to that event. It was a few bad weather days. We're getting closer and closer to it. So I think as long as you guys can guarantee that they're going to do the job correctly, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I was going to mention too a little bit on phase one, and you, Dan, pretty well nailed it. I would even be willing to, on phase one, up that ante a little bit to make sure that part is done. And maybe on phase 2 or 3, maybe slightly cutting it down a little bit. Maybe, I'm just saying, but I do really feel that we've already looked at, with the liquor store, what they lost during the construction out here. What the rest of the downtown is going to look like. When we start adding up the dollars and cents, personally, I'd like to bring it up, or at least consider bringing it up a little more. Maybe, I'm just going to say $1,000.
Well, they're supposed to have phase 1, A and B. You've got July 31st.
July 31st. That's the date. If they finish on July 31st, there would be zero payment for early bonus. If they finish a week before, then they get the full 7 days worth.
And even July 31st, that would still give us
About
about
20
So
days.
3
20
weeks.
days before the Rose Fest,
Yeah.
just in case.
And what are the chances they're gonna be 3 weeks over planned scheduled dates?
Depends on who we get.
It happens.
whether-
I mean,
yeah.
that was one of the reasons why I put it earlier, was to provide a little bit of buffer in there.
Oh, yeah.
But we don't wanna start inching towards that, because next thing you know, it's next week and the Rose
Yeah.
Fest is here and,
Right.
it's not done, so it's
I'm,
just.
I'm okay with whatever you got down here, but I feel that I'd like to cushion it even a little bit more.
We could reallocate it
For the
and,
business end of it, I mean, everybody down that alleyway, the whole works, it has an effect on them.
we could for the same, keep it roughly the same overall total, we could make the incentive on phase one 1,500 a day and drop the incentive on phase 2 and 3 down to 750 a day. So basically increase the one by 300 and decrease the other by 250. Still roughly the same overall potential bonus, but puts more emphasis on phase one.
My feeling.
Sure.
Yeah.
Question. Is that both lifts of pavement going on this year, or are you gonna do a final lift
So-
next year after a settlement
The
period?
only area where both lifts of pavement will be installed is the alley. And we just need that because it's that inverted crown, if you guys remember having that. And that helps if all that pavement goes on. Otherwise, everything else, final lift of pavement will be installed spring of 2021.
I think, this is just my 2 cents on the payment bonus thing. I understand the importance of phase 1A having a bonus, but getting that cornered on in a timely fashion. The rest of it, I don't really, I understand that it's pay you or pay them, but it's, you're assessing people good money and you're offering bonuses, and then you turn around and charge people too. I just see it as a worse fees. And I think, this is gonna be a huge project, and you're not gonna get some mom and pop little contractor to tackle this. It's, it's beneath them. I think you're gonna get a good contractor.
Yeah, and realistically, it should be a pretty good-sized contractor, but just because you get a good-sized contractor doesn't mean that they don't have other projects
understand
going
that,
on.
too.
And I think the only, if you did want to eliminate it for the second half, that's fine, whatever you want to do, but, one of the other things to point out is if we can get that contractor to actually finish on October 31, generally that means we're still working in a time frame where there's good weather. After October 31, there's not many days when the sun is shining. There's rain, there's not good drying conditions if you run into bad subgrade soils. And ultimately what it turns into is not only will we be getting in a fight with the contractor over liquidated damages, but there will very likely be increased construction costs as a result of trying to stabilize the road and get the strength that we need for the roadway surface. So I still think there is probably some benefit to providing some good motivation to get it done, but
I understand that. I worry about the compaction. Instead of doing little lifts and doing compaction, they slam the dirt in Tampa twice, and then you end up with the same thing we had out front and the same thing on First Street, where all these services, all these lines, and they try to pop back through.
And we had the same problem out here.
Mhm.
I agree with you, I'm glad that you mentioned it, because I didn't feel that way about it too on 2 and 3, but overall,
I mean, don't get me wrong, I understand the importance of the business aspect, supplies gotta get hauled into all those businesses, and then it's all serviced through that alleyway.
yeah, everything has
I
to.
just, that's my biggest fear is like what Dan was talking about, the corners being cut. Hurry up and.
Well, maybe we can break it down this way with the council is, what's your opinion? I'm gonna step out a little bit here. What's your opinion on phase 1?
1A
Which-
or 1B or 1 and B.
or I'm sorry, on phase one, the north half, I'm just saying we had talked about maybe $1,000 a day adding to it, or I mean $1,000, or what was that? On the first part of it, and then
We
we'll
had
get to
proposed
phase
1,200,
2 and
we were
3.
saying we could
Let's,
crank it
let's,
up to 1,500.
let's kind of break this thing down a little bit, so what you all, or do you want to go directly with this one? Or have you got your own idea? That's what I'm trying to.
I can see the importance of phase 1A, the alley, the business, you know, Rose Fest, the whole thing. The 1B takes us all the way up to Fifth Street. You know, it's not as important as 1A.
Yeah, okay,
Do we want to separate it down?
And both the completion dates for those are exactly the same.
same, yeah.
Oh,
So if you can get a little bit more than just that paving, I think that's realistic to have the contractor do that, so you might be able to, get a little bit extra out of that.
If we went from 1,200, would you be willing to raise that? Are you interested in raising?
Go to 1,500 and then drop the other.
yeah, I like, that, I could do. Take from one pot, add to the other.
Okay,
If you keep 1A and 1B tied together, if they're going after the incentive on 1A, then 1B will get the piggyback, with 1A.
great.
And in terms of the assessment cost, I mean, we can certainly identify any bonus they earn can be a non-assessable cost that's paid out by the city's portion. Because we go through and do the assessment calculations, there's always, non-assessable costs that we cut right off the top before we actually assign the assessments. So we can identify that any bonuses earned are not accessible to the property owners and are being funded by the city. I think that's,
see that as a complaint.
I think that's fair. Yeah, and I think that's a good clarification to make if somebody were to know about the bonuses and ask about them, that we could say, no, those are not being figured into the assessments, they're being financed by the city as an incentive to get the project done.
And then phase 2 and 3, what do you? gentlemen?
Well, drop it down so the total amount's the same.
Yeah, so if we change the phase one dollar amount to $1,500 a day,
Yeah,
the total amount that they could get after 7 days is $10,500. So then we would reduce the phase 2 and 3 amount to $700 a day, which would allow a total maximum payment of $4,900. Total maximum amount is
Still.
$15,400.
okay.
Yeah.
Does that sound reasonable to you?
Yeah. We have a motion on that?
Well, it all goes through,
No, I mean, you're giving us a direction, and we'll make those final adjustments in the bidding documents. You'll approve the bidding documents by the resolution, and we know to include that in the bidding documents.
Mark, how do you feel about that?
My first reaction to this early incentive, when Derek and I talked about it, was like, I wasn't real excited about it. I think in light of the phases, I see especially toward the downtown, that it's, I can see the benefit of it. I'm coming from the standpoint of, I don't know of any other cities that have done anything like this. I know MnDOT's done it, but at the same time, I can see benefit. It's like you say, Mayor, sometimes we just have to try and see what goes. I don't know how it's gonna be for, maybe is it gonna attract more contractors? Is it gonna, I guess we'll have to see. But I was a little bit unsure about this, I'll be honest with you. But sometimes it's one of these things where I'm just gonna kind of sit back and, see how it goes, but,
And again, there's no guarantee you're gonna pay the bonus, it's only if they earn it. If they
yeah.
come in on time or behind schedule, they get nothing.
I think they'll get phase 1 done, I honestly do, and I think you'll push them on it, to get it done.
I'll be honest right now, it's a very competitive market out there for the contractors. They got more work, they have their pick of the work they wanna do. And, out of the, I think the 6 construction projects I was involved with last year in the different cities I worked in, not one of them finished on time, not one. So, if you want to try to really get them to finish on time, you need to dangle a bigger carrot at the end of that stick. And, this is one way to do it without really exposing yourself to much risk. You're capping how much they can earn in the bonus, and if they don't meet the criteria, they get nothing. So.
Yeah, and we've certainly had our run of liquidated damages, and I've had them in other cities I've been in, so, yeah, that's no panacea, I'll tell you. And of the big projects in the last 7 years that we've had it here in Kenyon, I guess this would be the third one now, and the first two were 50-50, one finished on time and one didn't, so.
Well, we had,
And then Second Street didn't, that one, so actually you could say 2 out of 3, if you include that, even though it's such a small little project. But, yeah, so maybe this is a way that will motivate them to get done ahead of time, and thus they won't be late, so.
If we're gonna try it with a project, it might as well be this one, see how it goes.
Yeah, one of
Yeah,
the biggest
we're not
projects
about
in
anyone.
the history of the city, street projects.
Yeah, we had talked about, Derek and I talked about, the business park as well, but, this is a project where you're impacting your businesses, you're impacting your residents, so there is a benefit if they can get done early. Because it inconveniences everybody that's affected by the project that much less. The business park, you're developing a piece of land, not as critical, right, whether they finish a week early or not. So that one, no real reason to use an incentive on a project like that. But this one, there is some benefit to the public if they can get done early.
Well, your engineering report has gone on for 2 hours, and you guys are gonna lose your voice if we don't move on.
Yeah.
So I will move approval of resolution number 2020-08, so those guys can stop talking.
yes, I totally agree.
You talked us into it.
I'll have to remember that, though. Their engineering reports are gonna keep getting longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, this is not a record by any means.
I know.
Well, it's still the idea though, but it's good to bring out all of the points. It really is, and sometimes it drags on. So, okay, I'll keep my mouth shut. So who made the motion? Dan? And who seconded it? Tom, okay, Tom, we'll go with it. Okay, there's a motion been made and seconded for resolution 2020-08. We'll let it go with that. All in favor? Aye. Ayes passed. Move ahead a little bit. Okay, where are we at here? And legal?
Yep.
Boy, we're gonna have a new voice now.
Oh, I know, man.
Joe, are you all watered up and ready to go?
Scott,
Okay, let's go for it.
I could talk some more.
Yeah.
I like that.
I can jam in the legal.
I don't know, Mark, do you want to handle this?
Yeah, so
I'll let Mark handle it.
this is a reimbursement resolution related to Red Wing, so this is needed so that the city can pay itself back for expenses that have been incurred and will be incurred before we sell bonds. So we do this for every project, and it's basically required under IRS code, but it's basically what's called a reimbursement resolution, so the city can, because the city's expended, actually quite a bit of engineering and legal costs now on Red Wing and the business park also, but this one covers Red Wing. So what we could do then is when we'll sell bonds in a couple of months, then we'll take proceeds from the bonds and pay back all these expenses we've incurred. They go back, some of them go back to last year. So this is kind of just a boilerplate kind of thing,
Standard,
standard.
yeah, recommended to approve it right away. And not let the engineer say a word. Yeah.
I would move resolution 2020-05.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, Tom. Where are we at? Okay. Motion is made and second for resolution 2020-05 for the Red Wing Avenue bond sale. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, ayes pass. Okay, getting on to, do we have any others under?
That's it for me.
Okay. Into old business, and I believe that they are not here.
They're coming next month, I guess.
Okay, well, we can move on then. Purchase of a 2013 Elgin Pelican Street sweeper.
Yep.
Wayne, would you like to fill us in?
So, I looked at what McQueen's had to offer, what they took in on trades this year. We liked that 2013, they had like 3 options that they presented to us. One had manual gutter brooms, we don't like that. Actually, this 2013 is down Aitken, Iowa, just north of Des Moines. We went down there last Friday, Thursday I went down there with the salesman and we looked at it. Looks like a good machine. The few things that I noticed are already on their punch list to repair, and that's no charge to us as part of the deal. I would be very pleased if we could purchase this.
Well, we're paying for the repairs. You pay me now or pay me, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's in the.
it's not an add-on
It's part
to
of
what
it.
the price was. Like I said, it's part of that. And we got the safety grant money, so if we don't use it, we lose that 10 grand. Or we keep our old one and figure that out, or.
Does this come with any kind of warranty?
Yeah. It comes with a 6-month warranty from McQueen's.
Bumper kind of thing, or what?
Anything mechanical.
And that will be started after we get it up here.
Yeah,
It doesn't start the day of the sale.
search from delivery.
Yeah, so. I was able to listen in with Wayne earlier on when they started looking for the first few sweepers. And so I learned a lot about it, and I felt pretty comfortable that the guy pointed out, you know, various different, Tony is his name, is that who it was? Pointed out various different things that we should look for, and, you know, I mean, he was quite thorough, you know, that I thought. And I thought he was being very honest about it for what it was. He pointed out some of the better features that would be coming, that's with the much newer sweepers too. So I was happy with it. I was pretty, when I found out how much a new sweeper costs, I was pretty happy with this price. And not only that, but we had $10,000 that was literally donated, if you might say, you know, from,
Took some fancy
Do
typing.
it. what's that?
It took some fancy typing, but.
Yeah, and we gotta thank Wayne for that. So at least, I think we're ahead of the game, or at least, ahead of it, meaning that this is gonna, the cat's gonna get out of the bag, and if it goes forward, the sweeper that we have right now, basically is gonna be junk. So, I would say go for it, buy it.
So there's two items that have to be, I mean, they're tied together. The first one is a purchase, to authorize the purchase of the street sweeper. The second item is the financing. So
Yes.
the first thing we're talking about is that they're tied together.
Separate motions.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna make the motion on that one, that we'll go with the purchase of the 2013 Pelican street sweeper.
Second it.
We got a motion made and second to purchase the street sweeper. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes passed. Okay, now we gotta pay for it. Is that right?
Yes, so you have a draft, or you have the lease, proposed lease for the 2013 sweeper. This lease is structured, it shows $110,000 with the trade-in allowance. We have another $10,000 from an OSHA grant, but we can't include that toward the proceeds. I don't understand why this is, but it's a legal thing, I guess. So we have to have it, we have to have it set up as $110,000, but it really doesn't make that much difference in the grand scheme of things. The term of the proposed lease is 6 years. The lease payment would be $20,790. The interest rate is 3%, and then we have a dollar buyout at the end of the lease. Basically, this would, and then the other thing is this is capitalized so that the first payment would be due at the end of January of 21, is what that's supposed to say. It says, oh no, I'm sorry, that's right. It says February 1st, 2021. I was looking at the date on there, but the first payment is due February 1st, 21. So this way it would allow us to build that in the budget for next year. And there's really, it's kind of negligible as far as if you start a payment this year versus next year. I think it's a few $100 difference. I didn't even include it in here, but I would say that from a budgeting standpoint, we'd recommend that you start this payment in '21.
Now, the grant money, the 10,000,
Yeah.
do they specifically say that it must go for that unit? Or can we take that money, I'm kind of gathering, can we make that onto the payment when it comes in, we can actually throw it on?
You know, that I'm not sure about. If we can, I think we can pay this down early, so I can make a payment to them. The city can make a payment to them, not me,
Yeah.
but, or maybe we can put it in the bank and use it toward the first payment next year, or in our account.
Yeah, one way or the other, yeah.
We haven't really figured that out yet, but one way or another, we'll put it toward this cost.
But I mean, from the grant, would they dictate telling us what has to be done?
I think we purchase it, and then they reimburse us in 10,000, so.
Yeah,
So you have to show them bill of sale and,
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, after that, I think we control, what we do with it, but I mean, we would put it toward this cost.
The nice thing is grant takes care of a lot of that interest.
yeah,
Yeah, looking at Exhibit B,
Yeah.
a big chunk of that interest is
yeah.
gonna be taken care of by that.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay,
Yeah, I think it's good, I think it's a good funding plan, so I'll move approval of the proposed funding plan.
Second.
okay. Motion been made, second, approved equipment lease purchase for the 2013 street sweeper. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes pass. Okay, let's get moving. What else was there on there?
We
There were a
have
couple other ones.
the election judges,
Yeah, okay.
2004, is the next one.
Okay, we have to have a motion on that too. On new business appointment election judges for 2020, and that's a resolution 2020-04. Need a motion made on that? I'll
So
make
moved.
the motion, okay. I'll make it, and John, you second it?
Second.
Okay. Motion been made and second appointment of election judges for 2020. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, I pass. Okay. What else was there?
Interfund transfer, there's 3 interfund transfers that the auditors have kind of identified that they've asked or, recommended that the council approve. One of them is to transfer $648 from Fund 320, which is the USDA Geo Capital Improvement Plan bond, which is a fire hall, to 321 USDA notes. So that's really just a bookkeeping transfer. It's just part of the fire hall fund, fire hall debt. The second item is to move existing cash balance in Fund 321 to a restricted debt service account. So that's would transfer $1,096 from general checking to cash restricted for debt service. Again, this is related to the fire hall. And thirdly, to transfer funds from capital fund to restricted debt service account. This would be transferred $17,624 from the fire department capital fund 202 to USDA note fund 321 to meet USDA required balance of $19,341. The current balance in the capital fund is $266,000. That $19,000 represents 1 year's debt service, and we're required by law to have 1 year's debt service in reserve. So we did the first year, and I'm not sure what happened. They got paid out, but anyway, we need to move that back in there so we have that covered. So basically, we're just moving money around within our accounts is what this amounts to. So it's not, not raising taxes or fees, it's just inter-fund transfer of funds, so.
But it won't bankrupt one of the funds, will it? Okay. Need a motion on that?
Motion.
Yes, yeah, we need a motion on that too. Yep.
Okay,
So moved.
motion made and second to inter-fund transfer to meet USDA requirements pertaining to 2016 BGOCIP note for the fire hall. That's how I read it.
General obligation capital improvement.
There you go.
Note for fire.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, ayes pass. Okay. Where else are we?
And the furnace replacement.
Oh, yes, that's right.
We're asking for basically authorization, we have to replace the furnace in the Gunderson house, it's red tagged, I would say, and we'd like to get it done before the next cold snap hits, so
Oh, that's
tomorrow or Friday, so we
You mean you
are.
can replace it that quick?
Well, we've talked to Bobby Peterson's talked to two HVAC contractors that say they can, so.
Did they come up with a price?
We've gotten the two quotes, and what I'd like to ask is if I can get authorization to do, to get this replaced, and I'm waiting to get one more quote. Well, they're gonna have to get it to us by tomorrow from Reliable in Dakota. There's a quote from September 8th of 2019 for 4,200 would be the higher of the two for Bryant. With the coil, electrical's not included in that, and there's a dehumidifier option for 1,300. I also have so that was from Route 60 in Wanamingo. I also received a quote from Strites, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, in Dundas, and that one is for $4,600 for a, where are we here? I'm just trying to see if they listed a brand here. No, they didn't. It's a mainline, brand that they work with, I don't have it on here, but,
They deal with Bryant also.
Bryant, okay, so maybe it's the same kind of system, so.
Well, from what Bobby Peterson was saying this morning, that, and I believe, Dan, you said it tonight, it was under
It's
spec. But I mean, the whole thing is just,
Yeah, we're trying to get bids for
What are we-
larger,
yeah.
like
okay.
120,
Yeah.
whatever that means versus
Yeah.
90. So I think that's figured into this because Bobby talked to him. So what I'd like to do is get authorization to replace it. I'm waiting to get a quote from one other company and from Reliable in Zimbrota, which I believe is that Bryant? Or am I-
In all reality, a lot of furnaces are made by the same company.
Carrier. I think it's Carrier. I know.
But, yeah, I think the big
So-
thing here, when talking to the folks that are doing that study for the house as well, through that grant, they had mentioned the need for that dehumidifier option.
Okay.
So I think that's something that we might as well take care of too. The cost isn't that much more dramatic to have it.
Yeah.
So I'll move that we authorize the administrator to go with the lowest, most responsible bid for the furnace and the dehumidifier option.
I'll second that.
I'll do one correction, it's actually not a bid, it's a quotation.
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
a
Thank you, yeah, the lowest, most responsible quote
Yep.
for the furnace and dehumidifier option. Yep.
Okay, I'm not gonna repeat all that, so. In favor of Dan's proposal, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes pass.
Okay.
Okay, now is there any others that came up? That was the last.
That's it.
Okay, so we can go on with other business? Schedule of upcoming meetings. KMU meeting will be
That was
Wednesday.
in, South. next thing
Okay, anything?
for, no.
Okay. KMU meeting will be Wednesday, February the 19th at 6 PM. And our next city council meeting will be Tuesday, March 10th at 7 PM.
Primary is March 3rd.
Yeah, okay. And primary is March 3rd. And that's open from what, 7 in the morning to 8?
Yep.
And that will be at the fire hall. So I hope that works out well, which I think it will. And we do have a pretty good election judge, which is gonna take some of the pressure off of you and Holly. There's Linda Bean, is her name. She is also an election judge, and that is the person that's doing the part-time, so we've got a plus there too. So, okay, council and staff, general comments. And we'll start over on our left side. Derek, do you have something to say?
Maybe we should have a early incentive bonus for talking.
That was my
You
proposal.
stole my thunder there, bro.
Yeah, I
was gonna say,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask for. I have nothing else for.
Joe, you didn't even get to talk tonight. All right, and Scott, I should say, I'm sorry. Joe, how about you?
I appreciate you asking, but I don't think there's anything more I need to say.
Mark, how about you?
No, I, everything.
Tom? Dan?
Just thanks to the crews for getting the snow taken care of so well again on Sunday, and being up close to the shop, I get to hear those guys get going pretty early and take care of it really well, and nice to see the new police officers on duty and a couple of old familiar faces coming back and helping out again, with Mike being back, so that's kind of nice as well too, so that's all I got.
I'll second that for the street department, you guys did a great job.
And I'll second both of what you had to say. I think things are going along well. Was a little rough for a moment there tonight, but I think we'll get it straightened out and go forward with it. So if everybody's all happy, we'll need a motion to adjourn council meeting.
So move.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to adjourn the city council meeting for, what, February 11th, 2020. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes passed. All right.